Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Tristar Gym channel. Today's episode, we are going to be doing it tonight together at night, very late at night. And I have good reason for it. Okay, the schedule is going to be a little bit off for a while. I've been away for quite a bit. And the reason for it is my house is under construction, heavy renovations. Last winter, I had a major flood in my house, and the entire basement has been just torn apart completely. I got people from the city, private contractors coming to try to figure out what happened in the flood. A huge mess, a huge, monstrous headache puzzle. Nobody knows how to fix this thing. And eventually it got fixed. And now construction is happening during the day at my home. So unfortunately, I'm not able to film these during the day anymore. So that's why I've been away for a couple of weeks. So I've decided to start filming at night. Need to keep up with the schedule. So I will be doing these at night. And you know what? If it's even better, I might find time in the future, even after renovations are done, to continue at night. So it's possible that if I start to like doing it at night, maybe it's easier for me. Maybe sometimes I'll do it in the day, sometimes at night. I got a nice little light here for night episodes. I didn't have it before. I ordered one so we can do this episode here at night. I want to also update you guys that on this channel, we wanted to keep this channel going. One of my students, Abe, he said, you know what, let me cut some of the old footage you have, the old episodes you have. There's a lot of golden nuggets in each episode. They're a bit spread out. Let me start releasing videos, editing them and releasing them. So that's what you guys have been seeing the last couple of weeks, or the last few days, I should say, this last week. You guys have seen Abe uploading videos, little snippets of past podcasts that we've done on this channel. So thank you very much to Abe, guys. Thumbs up for Abe. Give a special thank you to Abe. He's taking his time and energy to make these extra videos. So we're going to have hopefully extra content. I'm hoping we have an episode every day, not a live episode, maybe 1 or 2 live episodes a day. And then Abe can kind of keep cutting them up and give you guys little snippets. For those of you guys who are not listening to the entire show and you want to hear about a particular topic, hopefully Abe will do that, and I think it'll make for a lot of fun. So thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you all for popping in. We got 88 people already in the chat room, so that's real good. Usually, so I'm hoping the attendance will be also really good here at night. Okay, so another little announcement I want to make real quick here is from our sponsor. We have the new, I'm very excited about this, the new Timtam. We have the brand new Timtam version 2. So if you guys have seen the first, this is the world's most powerful massager, okay, high-powered massager. This is version 2. So for those of you who had version 1, version 2 is more powerful. It has a heated tip. The tip now heats up the body, heats up whatever muscle you're working on. Now, again, this is the world's most powerful handheld massager. It's an incredible tool for keeping your body loose, limber, and healthy. And this is version 2. Pre-order is ready as of today. You have heat, you have the longer lasting battery, you have an ultra quiet motor. In version 1, it was a little loud. It's a very powerful massager, but this one, our newest version, our version 2, second generation Timtam power massager, now has not only readouts of temperature, the tip now heats up, warms up the muscle. It's also ultra quiet and more powerful. Now, for those of you who want to pick it up, go to timtam.tech, check it out. They're already pre-ordering now for $399. For those of you who have bought it already, so for those of you who have bought it in the past, if you've bought a Timtam, I believe you get a special code. You get a special code. They're supposed to email you a special code, and you get it for much cheaper. Okay, I don't want to say the price in case I get it wrong, but now if you already have a Timtam version 1 or version 1.5, shoot them an email or check your email. You probably got an email from Timtam giving you a promo code, and they're giving you like it's around half off. Okay, I don't want to. Don't hold me to this, okay? But I'm pretty sure it's about half off, if I remember correctly. They told me about the promo. I'm going by memory now. I believe it was half off. So make sure to pick up the new V2. Pre-order it now. People have already started ordering it. It's selling like crazy. Now the V1.5, the old version, is selling for half price right now. So it's about $200. We've also been selling tons of those already today. The special one out today, and it's just unbelievable. Super crazy. The sales are unbelievable. Pick up your Timtam V2. Pre-order it now. You won't regret it. The machine is unbelievable. It is the world's most powerful handheld massager. I guarantee you. If you've never tried it before, believe me, you want one. I've never lent it to anyone or had anybody try it. It didn't blow their mind how amazing it was. You have scar tissue all over your body. If you train, if you're a person who's serious about training, you've got scar tissue you don't know about. Once you put that gun on your muscle and you fire it away, you're going to be like, what is this thing? It's unbelievable. All right, guys, with that said, special thank you to timtam.tech, our sponsor, jujiclub.com. And now let's get ready for a little fun here. All right, we already have a super chat. Let's see what's this. Welcome, Mort, the Mad Mamluks. Is this Mort from the Mad Mamluks, my friend? Welcome. Thank you, Mort. I appreciate that. Thank you very, very much. Thoughts on BJJ curriculum and how they should be structured? That's a good question. You know, I really think jiu-jitsu has to start involving wrestling. Okay, I don't want to go too long on this because I've talked about it in the past and I have videos about it in the past. So I'm just gonna make this real quick. BJJ curriculums should be structured like wrestling curriculums. Wrestling curriculums have conditioning, and they also have stand-up and ground. Okay, wrestlers also do ground. For those of you who don't know, there is ground. So jiu-jitsu should start standing. There should be ground, standing, and there should be conditioning. It makes no sense that you roll for 45 minutes, or excuse me, you do technique for 45 minutes and roll for 20. You're never going to develop, world-class athletes like that. Okay, so in 1 hour, you can't just train somebody in 1 hour and develop world-class athletes. Okay, if you're training jiu-jitsu recreationally, okay, that can work. But if you're talking about taking your jiu-jitsu to the next level, I believe you need to wrestle and you need to do conditioning. Okay, we have a super chat here. Let's see what it is. Hey, coach, I'm an amateur boxer and currently I'm not working under any coach because of college. Can you suggest what I should focus on and what I should do a velocity-based training? Well, listen, here's a good little tip for you. Start with the traditional boxing exercises. Okay, so if you're an amateur boxer, start with what's tried and true. Okay, do a little running, hit the heavy bag, hit some mitts, spar. And from there, you know, just reassess yourself. You know, you gotta kind of like, you know, film your sparring, reassess yourself, have somebody look at you, and it's all about the assessment. And from the assessment, you take it from there. Maybe you need more head movement, maybe you need more conditioning, maybe you need more, work on your combinations. There's a whole plethora of directions you can go in. But I really suggest the most important thing is to start with the basics, master the basics. Keep it super simple. Super, super simple. Hey, coach, I'm 5'5". Hold on, it skipped on me. Oh, no, I lost you. Let me see if I can find you again, my friend. All right, my friend, sorry, I missed it. Lost that question. All right, guys, what else we got here? Do you think Conor can come back from the Khabib loss? Yes, of course he can. You know what? I'll tell you something about Conor, okay? In round two of their fight, he took a monstrous right hand. And he got dropped like a sack of potatoes, okay? Now, the way he got up from that right hand shows me he has a heart of a lion, okay? I guarantee you, most people, when they get hit with a right hand like that, they would panic. They would get scared, they would find a way out of that fight, okay? He came back to win round 3. The guy has a heart of a lion. It hurts when you get hit like that. You're discombobulated, you see like it or not, I don't care how confident you are. You might think, hey, this could be the end. This could be the end of my win streak, the end of this fight, whatever it is. Lots of doubts will creep into your mind, and it didn't seem like they were creeping into his mind. He seemed solid as a rock. He seemed very, very brave, very courageous. He came back to fight hard in that round. The man has a heart of a lion. You know, like him or hate him, he has a heart of a lion, so I think he'll be back. No doubt about it. Hello from Australia, AZZ. Hello, my friend. Thank you. Mort from the Mamluks. He's got. Also, what do you think about, who do you think will win, Holloway or Ortega? That's a good question. You know what? If the old Max Holloway shows up, the Max Holloway that's in his prime, the Max Holloway that took the title, the Max Holloway who beat Aldo, if that Max Holloway shows up, I think he's got too much volume, too much output, too much tenacity, too too much stand up, and too smart to shoot a double leg and get guillotined. Okay, a little bit too smart for that. I think he'll win. I think he'll win. But then, the last fight he didn't make weight. They were saying he had concussion symptoms. That's kind of worrisome. That's kind of scary. That kind of makes me think that maybe he's not well physically. But if he comes in tip-top shape, which of course he's going to say he is before the fight. He's not going to say, "Oh guys, I'm coming in this fight, I'm 50%." No fighter says that. If he's not doing well, he'll keep it a secret and he'll fight the fight. But if he's doing well, I think he wins that fight. Okay, let's see what else we got here. What else we got here? Okay, we got Dan Dunahi. Dan Dunahi, he's a member. Blue belt, I believe. I believe you're wearing a blue belt. As a newbie to BJJ, would you recommend I work on my mount defense or side control defense? Well, Dan, that's such a great question. That's such a great question. Now, listen, you guys are maybe not going to like my answer, okay? Maybe this is a different answer than a lot of what your instructors will tell you. And but I want you to hear me out when I say this. Okay, so listen. I'm not a big believer in practicing mount escapes. Now, I do mount escapes, but only like 20% of my training is mount escapes. Only a small amount. I do side control escapes from bottom, but only a small amount. I do back escape training, but only a small amount. I'm not a guy who goes in, and I see this all the time. Students come in and they drill back escape, and they're obsessed with escaping the back. They're obsessed with escaping mount. They're obsessed. Why? Because they get mounted in practice. They get taken down in practice. They get back taken. And they're like, you know what? I want to snap my fingers and get out of this horrific position. And I've seen guys ruin their careers because they're so obsessed with defending the back mount, the mount, side control bottom, takedowns. They're so scared about having their back taken and getting choken out. That's all they do. Well, here's how I see it. I think you've given up on mastering jiu-jitsu. You've gone with the game plan that, hey, when I get in this battle with this guy, the best I can do is survive. The best I can do is survive. Like, this is such a weak mentality, in my opinion. I want to avoid this at all costs. Okay, I do not want to go in this fight and plan on escaping. I don't want to plan on escaping. So hear me out. Why? Because let's say you're the greatest mount escape guy in the world. Let's say you're the greatest back escape guy in the world. Okay? And we lock horns and I take your back. You might escape, you might not escape. Why? Even though you're the best at back escape, I still have more leverage than you. Having the back is a more powerful position. The nature of the position. Excuse me. When I have your back, I have my hands in an advantageous position. I can choke your neck. I can armbar your arm. I can arm lock you. You can do nothing, almost nothing to me offensively. All you can do is bring things back to even. I can finish you or bring things back to even. All you can do is bring things back to even. So even on your best day, all you're going to do is create a stalemate. On your best day. So what do I practice 80% of my training? 80% of my training is based on control. Passing the guard and guard. Passing the guard and guard. Okay, we're excluding takedowns. That's because you asked me about jiu-jitsu. I will never give somebody my back. If the guy takes my back, that means he had to have passed my guard. He'd have to have swept me. He'd have to establish side control and take the mount and get to my... He'd have to go through so many steps. Because I've been building layers and layers and layers of defense, okay? Now, when you're in my guard, I have just as much leverage as you do. When I'm in your guard, we have equal amounts of leverage. So I'm really good at working at positions of leverage. Now, if you're really good at working positions with no leverage, because if somebody's on your back, you really have very little leverage. So you're trying to get good in the worst position. You're trying to get good at wielding a knife. When we're going to go into a gunfight, you're going to bring a knife. You're the guy who brings a knife. And I don't care if you're the best knife guy in the world. It's such a weak position. And at best, you're gonna get a kill once every, blue moon. Whereas if you master the most powerful positions, such as guard and pass the guard, that's why 80% of your training should be guard and pass the guard. Guard, never give the guy your back. The guy never even got close to my back. If he beats me, it's because he squeezed the one partial guard pass and the referee gave it to him. Okay, that's the way the cookie crumbles sometimes. But I won't even let that, I don't even want that to happen. Much less am I going to let the guy pass my guard, mount me, take my back. Newbies always want to learn how to escape the mount. I really don't think it's a great place to spend a lot of your time and energy. Focus on guard and pass the guard. Guard and pass the guard. Like, I've got guys that, their guards are so hard to pass. It's so ridiculously hard to pass. When I finally pass their guard, if I take their back or side control, they know so much about guard that to them they're gonna figure out an escape because they're so good at guard. I know it's weird to say, but if you're really good at guard and pass the guard, when you're in side control, when you're in back mount, you're gonna figure out. You're gonna be like, hey, it doesn't feel right. He's got his legs in the wrong. Like I need my legs between me and him. Excuse me. I need my underhook. You're gonna have understood so many important components of jiu-jitsu that you'll improvise and escape. That's right. If you give me a guy who's a world-class guard player and you let me mount him, he has more chance of escaping than a guy who's been practicing mount defense for 10 years. I personally believe that if you're mounted on a guy who's been practicing mount escape for 10 years and you're mounted on a guy who's been doing guard for 10 years, regarding and all the guard stuff, sweeps, the guard guy is going to get out. He's going to swim his way to one of his favorite guard positions, and he's going to turn the tables on me. He's going to be a much harder guy to deal with than a guy who's just retaining mount. I'll tell you why. Because even if the guy escapes back to guard, his guard is so weak that I'm just going to buzzsaw through his guard and mount him again. And then he's going to redo his escape, but this time he's going to be a little bit more tired. And then he's going to put me in his weak guard again. I'm just going to buzzsaw through that easily. And so what, he escaped mount? So what? His guard is weak. I'm just going to keep buzzsawing through. It's all about the guard, guys. Passing the guard and guard. Play guard 80% of the time. And yes, do your mount escapes. Do your side control escapes. Those will support your guard game. They'll support. But don't make it a main focus, okay? Guard and pass the guard is where it's at. That's where the battle is won or lost. So I hope that helps you organize yourself. Do lots of guard and pass the guard. Again, that's just for jiu-jitsu, okay? Okay, we got a couple more members here. We got Joseph here. He gave me a super chat. Let's see here. GSP versus Connor. How would each prepare to win? Well, listen, I think GSP would do very much a lot like Khabib did, if not a lot worse, okay? It would be a lot worse. I think the stand-up would be harder to deal with for McGregor because George has a longer reach. George understands the karate. He understands that. He understands the taekwondo. He understands those kicks. George has been doing that since he could walk. Okay, so and plus George's takedown style, it's very explosive. It covers a lot of distance. I think he'd just be a bad number for McGregor. Should we be mentally obsessive with MMA to be the best at it? No, you know what, Danny? This is from Danny97. I don't think you should be mentally obsessed with anything in life, okay? Because let me tell you something. There are a lot of things that can go wrong in your MMA career. So if you're obsessed, I think you should be focused. I think you should be dedicated, but I wouldn't go with the word obsessed, okay? Obsessive. Don't be obsessive with anything, because life will throw you a curveball sometimes, And if you're obsessed, if you're using the word in the truest sense, you're going to have a mental breakdown. Things are going to go really bad in your life. So never, in my opinion, put all your eggs in one basket, okay? Now, guys, I just finished practice, so I'm super thirsty. I might get some more water in a little bit. Yes, if you have a lot of talent, I would say be focused, be dedicated. Use those kind of words. I don't like the word obsessed. And I know George has used that in interviews before, and maybe he was temporarily obsessed because why? I mean, life took him in that direction, and here he is at a title fight. Okay, let's go all in. We got this title fight, title defense. Then it makes sense to be obsessed. Okay, but if you haven't gone to the deep end of the sport, don't be obsessed. Just dip your toe in and see what cards life deals you. And the more that's on the line, the more you can get I hate to use the word obsessed, but the more you can get dedicated to the sport. But there's more to life than MMA. Okay, so let's not pretend that there isn't. Thank you for your advice, Coach. Thank you, Dan. I'm going to focus and refocus on guard and guard passing. Yes, sir. Thank you, Dan. That is the right attitude, my friend. Should I focus more on wrestling than BJJ for MMA? No, you know what? I like both. I think you should do both. I've seen guys get takedowns and do nothing with it, and the guy gets back up and knocks him out. You need both, guys. Wrestling and jiu-jitsu, in my opinion, that's what you need to do. You need to do both. Okay, so if you're doing... I like to wrestle on the same day that I do jiu-jitsu. It's all one class. We start standing, then we go on the ground, and then when we're rolling, sometimes we roll a little bit on the ground, then we roll standing up, and we do it in different ways. But there's a lot of stand-up, lots of wrestling. And I love the wrestling just as much as the jiu-jitsu. It's fun. It's a lot of fun. You just got to get into it a little. Do you have start MMA at a young age if you want to become pro and get into UFC? No, not at all. No, not at all. Especially if you're talented. If you're a very athletic human being. You could have never done MMA, but you're very athletic. You did other sports. You played soccer. You played football. You played, rugby, or you swam, or you did track and field. You're very athletic. And you go into MMA. You could have a lot more success than somebody who started really young. Okay, now. It has a lot to do with your potential. Okay, so it all depends on your potential, your athleticism. And of course, there are other components, like how tough are you, I've seen guys who are very athletic, but once they get hit, boom, they just break. They just get the thought of getting hit again is just so scary that they just shut off. Running is better for fighting or not? This is from Shiv Mishra. I like running. I think running is a great exercise. More sprinting, okay? So I rather use the word sprinting. I'm not a big believer in long runs for MMA. I'm not a big believer in that. I think a little bit of it is okay, but like running every day, like boxers do and all that, I don't find it's conducive to wrestling. I like sprints and all sorts of sprints. Shuttle running, 400 meters, 100 meter type sprints. There's all sorts of ways to organize your running routine. I think running is very important, yes. But when I say running, to be specific, I mean sprinting, okay? So keep that in mind. What else we got here, gentlemen? Gordon Ryan MMA potential. That's from Sam Vassell. Sam is asking, Gordon Ryan MMA potential. So he wants to know, what's Gordon Ryan's potential for MMA? I've gotten to wrestle with Gordon Ryan. He's a good wrestler, good jiu-jitsu. Of course, I shouldn't say good. I should say great. Okay, great jiu-jitsu, great wrestling as well. Great athlete, phenomenal athlete, finisher on the ground. I mean, his submissions are the best there is in the game today. His potential for MMA, I think, is super good. You know why? He's a super dedicated guy. Like, he got really good at jiu-jitsu really fast. I remember training with him when he was just like, I think he was a purple belt. First time he was in the practice room with me in Georgia years ago. Okay, and he became a black belt very fast, and he is good, man. He trains long hours. He'll put his heart and soul into it. I'd be interested to know what category he'd be fighting in. That would tell me a lot more. And I think he'll do really well because he's a dedicated human being. Very dedicated human being. How do you get rid of loose skin from weight loss? That's from Med Yassin. Well, Med, listen, I know one guy I had in my gym once. He lost like 100 pounds of fat. Like, I'm telling you, he was like really big, but very dedicated to lose the weight. And he lost a lot of weight. Maybe it was like 80 pounds. Okay? And he had a lot of loose skin. He got a surgery. And I remember him showing me his scar, and they tucked it away underneath, and they took away all the loose skin. He had lost so much weight. And I remember like seeing the scar like a year later. It really got smaller, and I think it gets smaller and smaller over the years. That's what they do. They do surgery. So that's the best of my knowledge. That's the only experience I've ever had. I had one guy in the gym lose so much weight that he eventually went out and got a surgery to remove that loose skin. What else we got here? Let's see. Do you think the UFC is scrapping the 125 division? That's from James Jones. James, I'm not sure, man, but if they traded Demetrius Johnson, the probably the most exciting, or him and Sejuro, I think they need a trilogy fight, and they traded him before the trilogy fight happens. That tells me that they're getting rid of the division. Now it makes sense that Demetrius goes to Asia. In Asia, they love smaller fighters. They have a tremendous respect and admiration for shorter, smaller fighters, lighter fighters. In America, lighter fighters were never that popular, even in boxing. And I'm saying that because, if you look at Floyd Mayweather, he was a world champion for a long time before he became popular. He only really became popular when he fought Arturo Gatti. Before that, we'd watch him fight, but nobody else would watch him. There was only the hardcore people who watch him fight. Back then, we knew him as Pretty Boy Floyd. Now he's Money Mayweather, but before he was Pretty Boy Floyd Mayweather. He wasn't Money Mayweather. He wasn't Money May. And he was very nice on his interviews, very gentlemanly and very polite and soft-spoken. It was only when he started talking a lot of trash and got into it with Gotti, started insulting Gotti and all that. And that's the first time I think he made a lot of money. And then he started becoming Money Mayweather, because I remember after he beat Gotti, he kind of fell to his knees and started crying, and he was super, super happy about winning. But the thing is, he had won major titles before. He had beaten guys who were more renowned than Gotti. But Gotti was in a trilogy fight with Ward, so Gotti was super famous. And I think that's the first time Floyd made big bucks. That's how I understood it. I don't know the numbers, but I felt like when he fell down to his knees, I think it's because he finally made his biggest payday and he was set for life, kind of thing. He looked like a guy who just it couldn't have been because it was the title, it couldn't have been because he just beat Arturo. He didn't see, I remember him saying that Arturo was a C fighter, that he's going to beat Arturo easy. He only just does tune up for Arturo. That was the first time really I ever remember. That's as far back as I remember when he started talking trash and kind of being in your face. I think he was trying out a new image. But when he beat Gotti, for those of you who didn't see the fight, he just totally beat Gotti easy. And it was expected, the boxing scholars all thought Gotti didn't have a chance, or his chances were not very good. And it wasn't a surprise to many when he beat Gotti. But Mayweather dropped to his knees and he was elated. And I think it's because he made a lot of money that night. I think that was the night where he made the big bucks he was dreaming about. So I really hope, Demetrius goes to ONE FC and makes a lot of money. It's the division. In America, smaller weight classes are just not that popular. How many training days a regular guy needs to become a professional in general? That's from Monkey D. Luffy. Monkey D. Luffy. Well, listen, I think you got to train every day at least one time. Well, a lot of pros do 2 days. I think you need to do at least one training a day, 5 to 6 days a week to get to the pro level. Now, I'm not saying you're going to be world champion. I'm not saying you're going to be in the top 15. But if you want to get to the pro level, like a local circuit, like a regional show, I should say, excuse me, you should be training once a day, 5 to 6 days a week. Like if you want to win a fight at that level, at the very least. How was your sober October, coach? I don't know what that's from this guy. What is sober October? Can anybody let me know? Guys, excuse me, I got to get more water. Somebody write me up. What is sober October? Excuse me, everyone. I needed a refill of water here. I just finished practice and I'm really super thirsty. What is sober October? I'm guessing you don't drink, you don't smoke, you don't do all sorts of craziness. What is sober October? Anybody with an explanation? Sober October is what Joe Rogan and his friends do. No booze, no weed during October. and they had a fitness competition. Well, Kevin, thank you for the. First of all, thank you for being a member. Um, well, I guess I do sober October every year, every month of the year. Okay. Um, all of 2018 was sober October for me. Okay, so I'm always not doing drugs or weed and training competitively. So that just sounds like everyday life. So sober October, sober every day, every day. It's not exclusive to Joe Rogan. Laugh my ass off. Sober October has been training has it been a thing for a long time, especially in other countries. That's from Dave Mate. Okay, so that's cool. I guess people try to stay sober all of October. That makes sense. They try to break the habit, see if they're still in control of their substances and whatnot. But you know what? Me personally, I'm not really interested in that kind of stuff. I don't feel like I have a need to reach or I don't have a craving to do these kind of things. I just they don't appeal to me, and for me, every day is sober October. Okay, what else we got here? What's your opinion on 27-time world champ Renato Laranja? That's from JL. Well, you know what? I got to meet and hang out with Renato a few times. Great guy, amazing guy, funny guy. I met him in California and we hung out. We had dinner together after Metamoris. Great guy. 27-time world champion, man. You can't touch that. You can't beat that. The man is a 27-time world champion. Wink, wink. He's a brilliant guy. Honestly, a brilliant, funny human being. This is from Timoslav. How did you manage university and training and working at the same time? I'm getting exhausted. Well, Timo, let me tell you something. I hear you loud and clear. When I was younger and I was going through school and I was training and I was competing amateur, it was unbelievably strenuous on my body and mind. Now, I've never shared this with you guys, but I, at the age of 19, suffered. No, not 19. I must have been like 20, 21. Excuse me. I suffered from burnout. Like my doctor diagnosed me with burnout. Now, what happened to me? I was at work and all of a sudden I had a headache, and I never get headaches. Back then I used to never get headaches. Now once in a while. Okay. And I had this incredible headache. They just boom, right like it was 6:59 and I was feeling fine. 7 o'clock, boom, 7 o'clock sharp, boom, it hit me like a major headache. Like 5 minutes, 1 minute ago, I was feeling fine. It just kind of hit me. It was a very surprising sensation. I never had it before, and my head was hurting so much. And then my eye, behind my eye, had a sharp pain behind my eye. Anyways, long story short, I went to the doctor, and it was getting worse. I couldn't function anymore. I couldn't look at light. I was like really discombobulated all the time. And my doctor was like, "Hey, are you burning the candle at both ends?" I'm like, "Yeah, well, this is what I do in a day." And he was like freaking out. I used to wake up in the morning and train. It's the first thing. I used to wake up in the morning and train. Then I would go to class like at 9:30 a.m. So I'd wake up really early. Then after class, I would study all day, write papers. I had to get rid of all my schoolwork in one day, done. Like during the day. Then I would go back to the gym at night and train. Finish long hours of training. Go back home and sleep and wake up early. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, I would work. I used to pump gas. I used to work at a gas station. 7 days a week, I was busy. And I remember my father telling me, "Hey, you really got to slow down. You really got to slow down. You're gonna make yourself sick." And I was like, "No, don't worry, Pop. I'm focused." I was very driven, super driven. And I was also training professional fighters as well. It was so incredibly dense. My life was so incredibly dense. In a day, it was just unbelievable. But then when I got sick, I had an onset headache, incredible migraines, pain in my eyes. I couldn't even look at light anymore. I was confined to a dark room all night long, all day long, all night long. I was sleeping 16 hours a day, 20 hours a day. I was just completely out all the time. I would go see my doctor, a doctor's appointment, or trying to figure out what was wrong with me. Is it this or that? I had so many theories. Eventually, the doctor said, you know what, you were just burned out. Here are some pills. He gave me some pills. I don't even know what they were. I was really young at the time. I didn't do any research. I was just like totally out all the time. And it took me, I'm telling you, it took me years to get over it. Years. Years. Now, after about like a month, I started getting back to my routine, like slowly. Okay. But it took a long time before I felt normal again. It took a very, very, very long time. And if I ever missed a day of sleep, like let's say I was traveling, I would feel horrible. I would like stop what I'm doing. I would stop what training. I would take a day off. I'd go to bed early. Like I had a lot of respect for the need for my body to recover. So I don't want to scare you here, but I had like a major, major traumatic experience with burnout because my power was just gone. My power was just gone. I had nothing left. Like I would try to wrestle or I had no power. Now, of course, that was just for a brief period. Eventually, my strength came back, and I got back to where I am today. And like today, I can travel now, and it doesn't bother me as much. I feel normal again. But it took me. I'm no joke. It took me about 7 to 10 years, no joke, before I could miss my 8 hours of sleep and be okay anyway the next day. Because before, if I had a night where I slept only like 4 hours, let's say I had a bad night of sleep for whatever reason, I was sick or just maybe, I don't know, I wasn't feeling well. I just had a bad night of sleep, maybe whatever the reason may be. I would feel horrible the next day. I would be I would be unable to function the next day. I would be like grumpy. I would have no energy. I would be like I couldn't think. It's like if I had went the whole night without sleeping. And I was just completely off, completely thrown off. So my 8 hours of sleep became very, very, I became very strict with making sure I got 8, 9, 10 hours of sleep. Super strict. After I burned out, I became extremely strict with my sleeping patterns. Where now I'm more flexible. I'm much better now. Because if I missed an hour of sleep, I'd have headaches. I'd feel weak. It was like traumatic experience for me. Now, I would just tell you, if you're training, make sure you get 8 hours of sleep. And respect your body's needs for recovery. Really respect your body's needs for recovery. I really went overboard, personally. What else we got here? Dude, that sounds psychological. Were there any stressful events around that time? That's from CNC Thematic. Yeah, actually, there was CNC, but I really think it's because I really pushed my self to the extreme. Like I'm telling you, my training was extreme. My schedule was extreme. I was writing papers. Like I was just really always full throttle. It was unbelievable, and I regret it. I regret doing that. It was just too much. I should have prioritized things, and I should have took. After that, what happened with me is I finished my school, but I couldn't take a full workload anymore. So I was taking 4 classes a semester. I turned it down to 1 or 2 when I started coming back. And then I never went higher than 3 classes. I never took a full classes of semester. Never. Because it was just too much. My training, my traveling with the pros, it was just too much. And I'm the type of guy, I love to read. I love to study. Like I still study to this day. Even though I'm not in school, I still read books. I'm fascinated. I listen to lectures. I find every which way to increase in knowledge. I love to learn stuff. Okay, but I really was doing it as for grades. It's a different type. It's more of an aggressive type of learning. You got to make sure that you're perfect in how you reiterate things. It's not at your leisure. So I regret it. I should have prioritized myself a little more, and that's why I learned so much about prioritizing. I can't say yes to everything. When I say yes to something, I have to say no to something else. There's always something else I have to say no to. And I do one thing at a time now. It's really important to me. It keeps my sanity and it makes me more productive. So all the time I thought I was saving, I just ended up taking it all back. I had to take 2 classes a semester or 3 classes, never 4 again. I never did 4 classes again. So it took me a little longer actually to graduate. I was trying to graduate sooner. It ended up tripping me up and taking more time. So I was trying to save time. Trying to save time had cost me some time. How much water do you drink after a late BJJ class? I don't want to I don't want to hydrate too much either to avoid going to the bathroom a lot. You know what? I don't really. Thank you, Adrian. That's a good question. I don't really think about it too much. I just keep drinking. Like it's become a habit to drink. I drink water all day long. Super important. There is such a thing as being overly hydrated, but you know what? I every time I pee, I look at the pee. If it's clear, I'm good. If it's dark, I'm not good. I gotta drink more water. So I like to look at it like that. And you know what? It doesn't have to be perfectly clear. It just has to be, light color of urine, very light color. If your urine is very dark, man, you need to hydrate. And hydration, for me personally, I enjoy it. So I don't feel like I have to force myself. I enjoy the hydration. Do a PhD so we can call you Dr. Zahabi. That's from Shafi. Shafi, my man, yes, I will eventually do my PhD. Maybe not now, because I'm so busy now. I got wife, kids, a career that's, you know, always expanding, businesses. I'm busy now, but when I get to my PhD, it's going to be something I'm going to do for my personal development. And I feel like, you know what, I'm so ready to do a PhD. Like from getting my first degree to a PhD, I feel I've learned so much since graduating. I graduated over 10 years ago. So I think the PhD I can really tackle that and comfortably. Is it a good time? Is it good to give timeline goals for leveling up belts? That's from Raymond. I don't like the timelines. No, I think belts should be given like kind of at your leisure. I don't think. Um, I think you should just train, roll, and we'll tell you how good you are by who you can roll, how you roll. When you went to compete. I don't like this timeline thing. Like, oh, okay, in 3 years you'll be a purple belt. How do you know that? How does the instructor know that in 3 years you're gonna have understood jujitsu to the level of a purple belt? I know guys who've been doing jiu-jitsu for 7 years and they still don't understand. I know guys who've been doing jiu-jitsu for 3 years and they got their purple belt. Why? Because they have the understanding. How do you know if you're one of those guys who's gonna have that mind, or who, you know what? A lot of these guys who get their belts faster is because they think about jiu-jitsu all day long. Like I'm the type of guy, I think about jiu-jitsu all day long. I think about my moves all day long. So when I go to roll, like I've already pictured this scenario so many times. But other people, they have a lesser interest in jiu-jitsu. It's normal, right? They have other things going on in their life. And they be training just as long as me, but they don't have that understanding. Okay, so why should they get their pro belt? How do you know? Because I know a lot of jiu-jitsu classes, they do, after this amount of time, you'll have this belt. Like it started now in jiu-jitsu, like they have it in taekwondo and karate. I don't believe in that at all. I think that'll water down the sport. That's just it's a breakaway of tradition from tradition. I'll be my man. I'll be as a member. I'll be 121. Let me answer your question, sir. Oh no, I hope I didn't lose you. I'll be okay. There you are. Uh, what do you find yourself to be the best at jiu-jitsu in? To be the best at in jiu-jitsu, and why did you choose to develop that area? Well, Albie, thank you. Well, listen, I'm a guard guy and a guard passer. Okay, so I love the guard game and the guard passer, like you said. When it comes to the guard game, I'm really, really big on inverting the guard. I like to spin inside the legs and like leg entanglements, like ashigarami, inside senkaku. I love those type of things. When I pass the guard, I'm a stand-up passer. I do a lot of leg dragging. I do a lot of back taking. So instead of going to side control, I go straight to your back. I find it's more efficient. I'll land in side control when I have no choice, but I'm a big believer in going from the guard straight to the back. I don't want to go side control. I want to try to avoid side control as best I can. So I use a lot of leg dragging to do that, and Toriando attacks that allow me to go straight to the back. So I'll allow the person to kind of get to his side, and I have a variety of ways to get to the back. So I love taking the back. I find the back is where things are the safest for me and the easiest for me to control and put you away. My favorite finishing position is the back control. Now, the strongest finishing position, in my opinion, is the reverse heel hook or inside senkaku. Some of you guys call it straddle or 411 or whatever you call it. The inside senkaku position, I think, is the strongest finish. However, the best control position and the securest finish So what do I mean by the strongest finish? I mean, like, if you're 50 pounds heavier than me, a power lifter, and you're on steroids, and I put you in inside senkaku and I grab that heel, I don't care how strong you are, I'm gonna break your leg off. However, if I have your back and you're this monstrous bodybuilding steroid guy, it'll be harder for me to finish, yet more secure. It's gonna take me longer time, more effort, more tries, I should say, to get that neck, because your arm is gonna be a harder thing to pass through. However, I'm less likely to lose that position, and you can't do anything to me. Whereas if I grab your ankle, I'm doing a heel hook now. If I get it, you're going to tap. I'm going to break something. However, you can escape more easily, and you can actually hurt me more. You have more things you can do to me back. Okay, so when I'm leg locking you, you can leg lock me back. Whereas when I'm on your back, there's almost nothing you can do. How do you balance jiu-jitsu and studying? Well, Christian, I talked about that before. Listen, you know what? I would say, look, I would say there's a time and place. You can do both. However, you have to give up other things. Like, I give up going out. I give up, time with my loved ones. I give up a lot. And I would get up early, and when I would commute, I would study. I just gave up a lot. I gave up a lot of, I still had, social life or whatnot, but it was very minimal. It was very minimal. And it was for many years. I would say it was like 4 or 5 years. I was like really in solitude. But it was for a greater goal. I gave up a lot of other things. So like I say, when you say yes to something, you're saying no to something else. Now you have to ask yourself, what kind of life do you want to live? How bad do you want to become a jiu-jitsu master, a jiu-jitsu practitioner, a jiu-jitsu expert? How much are you willing to give? And how fast do you want it? Like, do you want it in 5 years or do you want it in 10 years? It's up to you, and I think you should let things gravitate naturally. If you're the type of person that's pulled towards jiu-jitsu every day, 9 hours a day, go for it. Like, let that pull take you there. If you feel like, no, I want to do jiu-jitsu 5 times a week, and I want to make time for a social life, that feels better for me, do that. Do that. Don't try to go in any direction that's artificial. Don't try to go in any direction that's artificial, because you're going to end up in a world where, you're just unhappy. I'm not saying that giving up your social life and your family life and all these things is a wise choice. I'm not saying that at all. I think for most people, it's not a wise choice. Live your life in a balanced way. However, there are certain individuals that they just have a pull. They're just being pulled to the art, to the sport. And, today, I don't do like I used to. Today, for me, with my wife and kids, I'm very, very meticulous about having the time with my wife and kids. So for me, weekends, like for instance, the fights just happened this UFC, this past weekend. I did not watch the fights live. People are like, hey, did you see the fights? Not yet. Why? I had a family function. I was with my wife and children, family. We're spending time together. If I'm not at the fights, I'm not watching the fights. Okay. Now, if I'm watching the fights, my whole family is watching the fights. That's why I watch the fights. If not, I'll watch it the next day or the day after that. Why? Because family for me is so important. So I have to juggle what I do. Now, I'm all business. So if you come to the gym, you're going to see me twice a day. By the way, guys, if you want to come to the Tristar Gym and you want a place to stay, there's the tsdorms@gmail.com email address. Write an email. Tell us what days you want to come in. They're going to send you back a quote. So tell them what they want to stay 2 weeks, 1 week. What are my options? Jeremy will send you back a response and you guys will get a quote. Now, let's say you come to the gym. You're going to see me there in the morning. You're going to see me there at night. During the day, I'm training my kids. I'm with my wife and kids. And then when I'm done training practice at night, I'm back home. On the weekends, I'm religious with my kids and wife. There's nothing that I'll do that doesn't involve my family on the weekends. Like, the weekends is for my family. And of course, now my sons are old enough, they come to practice with me, which is great. And now that my daughter's a little older, my wife's going to start coming to practice. So the family goes to the gym. And that's how I do things. I try to make it all in one place. Now, it's all business when we go to the gym. Everybody's doing their thing. I'm training still very seriously, but we're together still. We have, good memories. We share in jiu-jitsu. Everybody in my family does jiu-jitsu. Everybody. Even if it's just a little bit. We all share into it. So it's fun. Have you ever thought about writing a book on being a Muslim in the MMA world? Well, Mort, I don't know the relevance of that. To be honest with you, I don't really find it, like, a lot of people, they bring religion and MMA together. I feel like MMA is not a thing to mix with religion. I'm just being totally honest with you. Why? Because for me, religion is a very pure, honorable thing. Like MMA is a sport, and I don't feel we should conflate the two because MMA is not important. It's just not that it's not important. It's important, but it's so trivial compared to other things in life. There are things that are far more important in life, and I think religion talks about those kind of things. Being a good person, right from wrong. These things are big topics. Whereas MMA is just like, it's a sport. I get it. It's a serious sport. It's a dangerous sport. I just don't see the relevance of mixing the two together. It's kind of like I'll be honest with you. I find it a little bit embarrassing when guys beat a man to pulp and then they start saying, hey, they start talking about, religion. It's like, dude, did you just see what you just did? Like, where does religion fit into this? Like, you think like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, I understand people who say, I'm grateful, I'm blessed. Okay, these things I understand. I get it. Like anything good that happens in life, you're going to feel blessed and grateful. I'm on board with that. However, I don't feel people should bring too much religion into Octagon because it's not because it should be it doesn't, I should say, it makes religion look bad. That's my opinion. It's not a place to make dawah or preach to people. It's just not a place. It's not a proper place. We're here, we're playing a sport, we're playing a game, we're forgetting about piety and being, we're actually fighting here. We came here to fight. And now we're going to start preaching all of a sudden. It just doesn't mix very well, in my opinion. I think MMA is just not a worthy activity to bring in, to mix the two. Favorite philosopher, that's from Brody Grad. Well, listen, Brody, I have a lot of great favorite philosophers. It's gonna be hard for me to narrow this down, okay? But I'm about year 2 now. I'm going into year 2 now of reading Arabic philosophy, and Arabic philosophy is amazing. For those of you who don't know, Arabic philosophy predates the Enlightenment. It predates Western philosophy. It doesn't predate Greek. Western. Actually, it's a very broad term. I should elaborate. It predates the Enlightenment, so it predates, British empiricism. However, the Greeks came first. Okay, now what came before the Greeks, we don't know. We have a small idea, but we call it the pre-Socratics, but we don't have any real records. Okay, so something came before the Greeks, that's for sure, but we don't know what it is. We have just small fragments. We call it the pre-Socratics. But what came before the Greeks themselves, again, we don't know, because the Greeks are not that old. They're about a couple of thousand years old, 2,500 years old. Before that, human history goes on before that. We just don't have any records of that. Now, the Arabic philosophers, some of my favorites are definitely Ibn Arabi, no doubt about it. Ibn Tufayl and Imam Ghazali, no doubt about it. Incredible thinkers. Now, I studied the Enlightenment far earlier, and the Greeks. I studied the Greeks and the Enlightenment far before I studied the Arabic philosophers. And I see, after reading Avicenna, which I also should mention as one of my favorite philosophers, Averroes, Ibn Rushd, I see where Descartes, Kant, Hume, how they were influenced, Locke. They were influenced by these Arab philosophers that wrote 500, 600, 700 years before. And the parallels are striking. It's really unbelievable. It's such an unbelievable experience. And I'm amazed that in university I didn't learn these things. I learned it as originally Western thought, where a lot of it is an influence on Western thought. It comes from the Persians, the Arabs, the Muslims, the Muslim philosophers, which is fascinating, incredibly fascinating. So now I'm really studying them both, and it's just really an incredible amount of literature, the history of thought, from the Greeks to the Arabs to the Enlightenment period. Just unbelievable. And I know the majority of you don't even know what I'm talking about probably, but just to answer that question, incredible line of human thought, incredible, fascinating. And any philosophy student out there, I really heavily recommend you go through each time period, because it's just unbelievably fascinating. Up next, what do we got here? Did you learn any language as an adult? And what technique would you recommend for learning languages fast? That's from Haystack. Well, listen, all my languages, I learned them when I was young. I speak Arabic, I speak French, and I speak English, of course, obviously. I did try to learn Spanish, but I didn't have anybody to practice with. And I think that learning a language is a lot like training. You have to do the drills, and then go practice live. You have to do it live. So I'm still very interested in learning Spanish, super interested. I just don't have anybody I can practice with very much. A couple of fighters that, sometimes I talk to them a little bit here and there in Spanish, a word here and there, but we kind of fell out of the habit. I need somebody to really interact with. I had this great app called Duolingo. Duolingo is an amazing app. It's kind of a gamification of Spanish. It turned Spanish into this like game, and I was doing really good. I have a great memory, guys. For those of you who don't know, like I got an incredible memory. I do a lot of memory training. Excuse me. I do a lot of memory training myself personally. I'm fascinated with memory champions. I follow them. I study them. I read their books. I've read, I don't know, like 15 books on memory. I buy their programs. Like I'm a memory guy. Like I love memory. Now, for those of you who don't know, even the best memory guys in the world, they forget stuff. Okay. There's a lot of techniques you can employ to work your memory. However, they I don't know if you guys have ever heard of a book called Moonwalking with Einstein. It's a book on memory. If you commit something to memory, you have to go through particular techniques. Like let's say, for instance, I look at this and I want to memorize this. Okay, I want to memorize. It says jujitsu with a thumbs up. Okay, now that's too easy to memorize. Let's say it was a list of 20 words, and I want to memorize a list of 20 words. Now there are a lot of techniques you can employ, but you'd have to apply those techniques to that list of words. If I apply the technique to that list of words, I'll remember it. You ask me a week from now, 2 weeks from now, I'll remember it. However, if I don't apply that technique, that's what the guy from Moonwalking with Einstein is talking about. He says, look, I'm a memory champion and I forget things all the time. People ask me, hey, how could you forget this? You're a memory champion. He's like, I didn't try to memorize it. I didn't commit it to memory. That's not how memory works. That's not how memory champions operate. You'd have to tell a memory champion, hey, I want you to memorize the 20 words on this mug. Then he'll apply a technique and then he'll remember it. However, if you don't ask him to, he'll just, casually look at the mug like everyone else and forget about whatever was written on it. He won't have practiced, he won't have applied any memory techniques. So I have a fascination with memory. I study it. I'm amazed at how much human beings can remember. Like, I don't know if you guys are familiar with what memory champions can do. It's unbelievably impressive. I read a story about GSP backflipping off Dana White's car because he wouldn't pay him enough. That's from MMA Propaganda. He's asking me, can I verify this? Well, MMA Propaganda, you've lived up to your name. No, this has never happened. It's totally fictitious. George has never backflipped over off anybody's car. Why wrestlers are dominating in MMA and UFC? Well, you know what? I think they have a better training program. I don't think their techniques is necessarily better. I think that they do conditioning. I talked about this earlier. They do conditioning and they do both standing and ground. Whereas jiu-jitsu guys just practice ground for 10 years and then realize they want to do MMA and start to play catch up on the other two components. So start off, make sure you do conditioning. Make sure you do both standing and ground. You'll be just as good as a wrestler. No doubt about it. Look at Jacare. Jacare just beat Whiteman. He wrestles. He does conditioning. He always wrestled. Jacare always wrestled. And his jiu-jitsu and wrestling combination allowed him to get a victory. Now, of course, it was stand-up. But I think that oftentimes when a jiu-jitsu guy and a wrestler meet, it often leads to stand-up. Why? Because their grappling arts nullify one another. However, the wrestlers are generally more athletic. They're generally more athletic. Why? Because they do conditioning, they practice stand-up. They don't just do ground. And Jacare was just as athletic as Chris, and he won. It was a close fight. Could have went the other way as well. I'm just saying, look how competitive it was. Because Jacare had the two other components. He both can wrestle, and he's also an incredible athlete himself. Okay, this one's from Quarty Force. Super chat. As an active trainee and competitor, how does one come back better after an injury and not let the prospect of taking days or weeks off affect them? Well, Force, you know what? I understand you're probably off an injury and it kind of broke the momentum you have. You had that momentum and you were kind of like on fire, and then you get injured and it kind of kills that. You got to build back slow. Don't go back to what you were doing. If you were rolling 5, 6, 7 rounds a night, don't go back to that. Come back 2 rounds. Next day, come back, do 2 rounds. When you feel right, do 3, and just build that momentum. Let it snowball. Keep that image in your mind, the snowball. and you'll get back to where you were. Don't worry, it's in there. Your skills are still there. The mind is an incredible thing. It will rewire itself. It'll remember what you need to do. However, give the body the time it needs to adapt, and you'll get back to where you were and better. I'm about to have my first fight without training. Any recommendations? I have been conditioning for 2 years. That's from Henry Tran. Well, Henry, I'm not gonna take your question too seriously. If you're having your first fight without training, you're probably gonna get a beating, my friend. And I recommend you pull out of your fight, because this game we're talking about, is a serious game, Henry. And you're probably joking, but I hope you are, because this sport is brutal. Okay, if you don't prepare, it's brutal. If you're prepared, it's not that bad. If you know what you're doing in there, it's not that bad. It's manageable, and it can be actually really easy for some guys if you're that prepared. But if you're not prepared, man, you're gonna be in for a nightmare. What else we got here? Sports psychology is a relatively new field of psychology. Do you see it growing in future of MMA? Why or why not? That's from Nicholas Vona. Well, you know what? Sports psychology, my friend. I have a lot to say about sports psychology, but I'm going to keep it really short. Okay? Listen, a lot of the sports psychologists out there, man, they don't know what they're talking about. Okay? Not all of them. Some of them are really good. You got to find yourself a sports psychologist that's really, really good. Because some of them are just guys who are just going to help you manage anxiety. They're going to give you some really weird, like kind of like useless tips on how to manage yourself. A lot of it's just not good. Find a really good book. In my opinion, find a really, really popular, good, well respected book that's been around for a long time. I recommend Psycho Cybernetics. It's a really good book for visualizing. I recommend The Inner Game of Tennis. Okay, it doesn't have to, don't worry about it. It's about tennis. It could be The Inner Game of MMA. They could have called it that. I really like these kind of books, like really, really well-respected, tried and true books. And there's a lot out there. There's a lot of different books, but those are just two recommendations for you. And I think you got a lot more from that and thinking about that and meditating on that than you will about reading these psychologists, unless you have a really good one. Okay, because some of them, I'm telling you, are just not worth it. But some of them are actually quite excellent. I also recommend another book that most of you probably have never heard of. It's called Fear by Steve Chandler, which I really like. Some of his work I'm not crazy about. Some of his work I really like. His book on fear was really excellent. I really enjoyed that book. Great book, Fear by Steven Chandler. Check it out. Can you explain what makes Ben Askren's wrestling so effective? Seems different than Olympic wrestlings such as Yoel. Well, Yoel is a very explosive guy. You're right. The wrestling styles are very different. Let me just take a quick sip here. You're right. Yoel is very explosive. Yoel is the type of guy who uses a lot of athleticism, a lot of torque. Whereas Ben Askren is a chain wrestler. He's what I would describe as a chain wrestler, which I love to watch, by the way. He goes from one maneuver to the next, to the next, to the next. He's kind of like a machine gun. He doesn't stop firing at you. Whereas Yoel is more like a bazooka. He blows up. If he got you, great. If he didn't get you, he needs to pause and reassess and re-energize and do it again. Whereas Ben is just in your face, stuck to you like glue, and he's chain wrestling you, and if he's incredibly fit. The man never slows down. It's not just his wrestling, it's his pace. People say, oh, his wrestling's so good. His wrestling is great, but that's not what makes him great. His wrestling is great. There are other guys, because Yoel's wrestling is great. But Yoel, if you guys notice, excuse me, tech problem, pardon me. Yoel's wrestling is also great. However, he relies heavily on striking. Heavily. Whereas Ben doesn't. Ben is a master chain wrestler. He's a master of chain wrestling. I mean, the man's just perfected the art. Plus, his conditioning's through the roof. So I'm really excited to see when he comes to UFC how he's going to do. Now we're going to finally see him against, some of the best welterweights of all time. How do you tell somebody that you don't want to roll with them? If they are overly rough or uncoordinated, I don't want injury. That's from Stefano. Stefano, I really recommend you just be honest. Say, man, somebody asked me to roll with them. I say, no, no thanks, man. Honestly, I feel like we go too rough. When me and you roll, we have like a bad chemistry. That's it. Maybe next week. Maybe next week. That's it. There's some guys I don't roll with because when I roll with them, they scratch me. They go wild. And I just tell them straight up, dude, sorry, man. Like, me and you, bad mix. Bad mix. It's going to turn into a street fight. Just super honest. Nice. Polite about it. Sorry, man. Maybe next week. Try me again next week. And then I'll give him a second chance and a third chance. Don't be the kind of guy who, doesn't give people a second chance. Maybe you've had a bad roll and somebody was on the receiving end. Try to be polite. Try to be, friendly. However, there are some people I know. I hear you loud and clear. Some people are just too rough. Like you're rolling with them and it's like their life is on the line. So I totally understand you. Just be honest. Be totally honest with them. This is from Harish. Do you believe in the benefits of heat shock proteins created by being in a sauna? Well, Harish, I have never heard of this. Heat shock proteins. Please send me a link. I'd love to put it in the comment section. I'd love to look into that. ASAP Mangoes, would you compete in the high rollers competition? What's a high rollers competition? If that's a grappling competition, sure. I mean, if they make me an invitation, depends on what the offer is, but I would consider it, definitely. This is from Will. Hey, Will. Hey, Frost, what philosophical discussion debates have you and John Danaher had? That is a great question. That is a man. Will, you are a man who you know your stuff. You know your stuff. That is a fascinating question. I wish I can answer that question, but I have too much respect for John to mention his views without permission first. I have too much respect for the man. But we have had some very interesting philosophical conversations. And it's weird because we're often on different sides of the fence, me and him. Even though we've spent so much time together, we've read many of the same books. And I wouldn't say we're that far apart, but there are some things we disagreed on that really surprised me. And a lot of things that I thought that I wouldn't have thought that John would think it that way. But John's a very smart guy. I respect his opinion heavily. But unfortunately, we don't, obviously it's normal. We know difference of opinion are going to happen. But we've definitely had some difference of opinion and some agreements. Have you seen video of Askren roll with Marcelo Garcia? That's from Ibna D. Yes, I have seen that video. It's a very popular video. And yes, Marcelo had his way, definitely. But listen, I've rolled with Marcelo at that time. Okay, back then, like the time that Askren rolled with him, I rolled him probably a year before. And Marcelo was doing that to everybody, And when Marcelo was turning it on, man, he was beating world champions like that. He's a monster. Just Marcelo's another level, guys. It's just another level. Like he's on that level. Okay. Now I think Ben Askren was probably like a brown belt at that time. If you add in his wrestling credentials and all that, okay, he's as hard to deal with as a black belt. However, Marcelo is just another level. For him, a black belt is nothing. For him, a black belt. I'm talking about back in the golden day. This is an old video you're talking about. Marcelo is just at the prime of his game, and he was going to do that to many guys. What's the basic first punch do you do on the street, considering that I have a good low kick, left hook, and wrestling? Samko, don't punch anybody in the street, man. First of all, if you have to ask that question, you just need more boxing lessons because there is no right punch to throw. I can't pre-tell you what punch to throw. Can you hold on? I'm just going to refill my water. 1 second, guys. If you have to ask me what punch you have to throw, you haven't done enough boxing. It's like asking somebody, what submission should I do if I get in a street fight? Well, what is the guy going to give me? I don't know how the guy's going to react. Should I throw a hook? Should I throw an uppercut? Should I throw a kick? Should I throw a body shot? It all depends on the situation. Why is Canada MMA on the decline? That's B-Town Bully. Well, B-Town, that's a good question. You see, I don't remember what year it was, but there was a year where they busted, like, I believe it was 110 bikers in one day. They did a huge sting across the country. Now, when these bikers got busted, MMA started to go on the decline, which leads me to believe that maybe there was a lot of biker money behind a lot of these shows. You know, because shows are very, very expensive. Flying fighters in, paying their purses. You know, the event, the arena, a minimum show will cost you like $60,000 to $100,000 to put the show on. Just to put the show on. And, you know, you got to hope you're going to recoup that in tickets and sales of whatever, 101 ways you can try to recoup your money, get a TV deal, sponsors, getting sponsors on the octagon, on the cage, you know, like it's a tough business. And after that bust, a lot of these shows started all flying out. You know, it's a historical day in Canadian history. I can't remember what year it was, but it was about that time, shortly after MMA started dipping. And now it's back on the rise. We have more shows coming up. I think it has a lot to do with Fight Pass. Fight Pass went up and picked up a lot of local shows, and now these shows are being televised, so the money's back, you know, and a lot more exposure, a lot more sponsors come in. So I think it was a question of economics, because now we still have plenty of MMA fighters, plenty, and a lot of our Canadian fighters come from TriStar, and they all matured. All of them, a strong majority of them are in UFC. So we have an amateur league, and we have a pro league, but a lot of the Canadian talent is in UFC now. So there's also a lot of that. You know, all the big names are in UFC already. Khabib doesn't want rock concerts in Dagestan. Adam Loot. Well, listen, I don't know about that. I haven't heard anything about that, but so I have no comment. I have no idea. I don't know if you're being serious. JH, what initially drove you to get into MMA when you were younger? JH, you know, I saw Hoist Gracie win. I saw a highlight of Hoist Gracie winning UFC 1. The first UFC, the UFC, as we used to call it. It was like the UFC. Then there was UFC 2. I watched that live, and I was just fascinated how a smaller guy can beat these bigger guys. Very fascinated with learning how to defend myself. And here we are today, 2018, and I'm still doing it. What do you think about Paulo Costa versus Israel Adesanya? That's from Daniel Romero. Is that fight booked? If that fight is booked, I will be watching. I definitely want to see that fight. Now, I know Israel just fought. He just beat Brunson, right? So I saw the fight. Good fight from Adesanya. Now I want to see, is this fight really booked against Costa? Because if it is, I'm going to be glued to my screen, my friends. That's going to be a very, very interesting fight. This is from Tim. Coach, what do you think about GSP's interest in paleontology? I think it's awesome. I really encourage it, man. And you know, today, I just sent him this really cool article that, let me see if I can share it with you guys. We may have made contact with aliens. I know it sounds crazy. Don't jump out of your seat now. It's an actual article. And here it is. Hold on. CNN. Look at this. Breaking news on the Tristar Gym channel. You guys are about... Hold on 1 second. Boom. Look at this. How do I minimize this? All right. Let me see here. Oh. This is from CNN. I don't know how to work this thingamajigger. Anyways, I don't know if you can see that. It says interstellar object may have been alien probe. Harvard paper argues, but experts are skeptical. Now, I said maybe, right? Now, look at this thing. They think this thing might be an alien probe. Can you believe it? Look at this thing. I sent this to George and John Denehart today, telling them, look, your nightmare has come true. The alien probes has arrived. It's coming for you, George St. Pierre. It's now in our solar system. George St. Pierre tonight is not going to be sleeping well. Let me tell you guys. Let me guarantee. Oh, hold on. Sorry. Hold on. You guys are missing this. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. My bad. I've officially lost my purple belt. I'm back down to blue belt. Uh-oh. Hold on here. It's not what we're looking for. Hold on a second. There it is. There it is, my friends. Pardon me for getting it wrong the first time. This is, now again, most experts are skeptical. Okay, no, it's probably nothing. But here it is. It may be, now I'm using the word maybe here, okay? Don't jump out of your seat. This may be an alien probe. This is an interstellar asteroid. And it's in our solar system. Now, you guys can't see the text, okay? But these guys are talking about, I wasn't able to fit it in the screen just right. But anyways, these guys are saying, look, this thing's come from far, far away. Maybe an alien probe. Now, most scientists are skeptical about it being an alien probe, but it is in our solar system, so hopefully we'll get, it says, astronomers have never seen anything like this enter our solar system from outside. Now, I sent this to GSP. And let me tell you, once GSP sees the article I sent him, he will not sleep well tonight, my friends. I also sent it to John Denhar, so maybe he can help me spook him a little. But George loves this kind of stuff. He loves paleontology. He loves, research on aliens and all this kind of stuff. It fascinates him. And I recommend it to him. I think it's great. I think he should have something outside of MMA that he has interests in. And with that, he can definitely, keep his mind off MMA. When he needs some downtime, it's good to have other interests. I don't think you should put all your eggs in your one basket, because MMA could only develop you as a human being, so much. It can only take you so far. What else we got here today? All right. Sorry, guys. I got to kick one person out. Probably some 12-year-old kid here. All right. What else we got here? Are you drinking tap water? No, McTwist. I drink fine Canadian water, bottled Canadian water, my friend, the greatest water in the world. When I go to other countries and I drink the water, I'm like, what is this? Goodness gracious. Not all the other countries, but Canadian water, guys. If you get to Canada, make sure you grab some of that Canadian water and bring it back home with you. Who do you want to see Ben Askren fight? Well, I heard he's going to be fighting Robbie Lawler. I don't know if that's true. Somebody told me he was fighting Robbie Lawler. And you know what? It's not the first fight I want to see. I don't. It's not. I would have liked him. I would have liked to see him fight someone like Darren Till. He's ready. He's ready for a fight like that. Obviously, no doubt about it. But they gave him Robbie Lawler. I don't know. What kind of Robbie's gonna show up. This one's from Kevin Dayo. He's a member. I like how you downed that mug like you were in a commercial. Ahaha, get that money, coach. I'm really thirsty, my friend. Let me tell you, super, super thirsty. Oh man, I love water. Did you watch Game of Thrones? That's from Yassine. Yes, actually, I have watched Game of Thrones. It's pretty cool. My wife was making me watch it at first. I didn't like it. The first season and a half, I was not really interested in. I was bored, but my wife kept asking me to watch it, and eventually I got into it and really started to enjoy it. I think it's a really, really good show. It got to the point where I think I watched it all the way to the end. Like, I don't really remember what happened in the end, but I think I watched the whole thing. And it was fun. It was a good show. Coach, what do you think about Floyd Mayweather fighting in Ryzen? MM75 asks, Coach, what do you think about Floyd Mayweather fighting in Ryzen? I think it's interesting. I think it's a mismatch. It's going to be an interesting fight. He's fighting a very talented kid. I'm forgetting his name right now, but yeah, I think it's Yeshin. A very, very good kickboxer. Southpaw. Little firecracker. Very tough kid. But he's smaller than Mayweather, and he's not a boxer. So Mayweather has definitely beaten bigger names in boxing. I think Mayweather's just having fun right now. There's a lot of other killers he could fight, but why bother? Why fight these guys? I think, he's just having fun. He wants to stay in the ring. I think it's a lifestyle he's accustomed to. I think he's probably bored with his day-to-day, and he needs another boxing fight. I think he's probably just going to do a minimum amount of training, just enough to get him in shape. He's probably going to spar a few times, and he'll go in there and he'll clean house, have fun. He'll do it in Japan. That's a whole other crowd. I don't think he wants to gather everybody up in Vegas to fight some guy nobody knows. He's going to go fight a superstar in Japan, a Japanese superstar in Japan. And when you're a martial arts star in Japan, you're a mega hero. Okay, so for those of you who haven't been in Japan, I've been in Japan, believe me. Superstars who are undefeated, that do martial arts, that are undefeated, and they're small, and they're tiny, and they're Japanese in Japan. Oh, man, that's going to be huge. It's going to be a monstrously big fight in Japan. In Japan, it will be huge. In the United States, most people, only the hardcore fans are going to watch. Only the hardcore. But in Japan, it will sell out. It will be monstrous. And I think Mayweather knows that. He understands that, obviously. And, he's having fun with his career. Coach, what is your favorite comedy? That's from Justin Anderson. Let me think. That's a good question. I used to love watching Seinfeld. It's just hilarious. Seinfeld, to me, was just such a witty type of intelligent type of comedy. It was just absurd, borderline absurd. He would make fun of things that were just completely, at that time, unheard of. He just had a fascinating way of turning a simple thing into a joke. So I really enjoyed Seinfeld. Probably my favorite comedy. This one's from Hung Ryu. For us, how's your relationship with George St. Pierre? How's your children's relationship with George St. Pierre? Very, very good, actually. Now that Noah and Ayman, my sons, are training and practice, and George is there sometimes on certain classes, they're both on the mat together. George always asks to roll with my sons. At least one of them, he likes to roll with them, and then after practice, he kind of trains with them. He does calisthenics with them. He does gymnastics with them. And I've told them numerous times, not to let them, distract his training. He's like, no, that's good. I asked them to roll, or I asked them to come do gymnastics with me. So it's very good. George is really, really good with the kids. Very, very good. Great guy. They like hanging out together. Let's just say that. Do you watch anime? If you do, what? That's from Voorhees. Do you watch anime? No, I don't watch anime. I'm not even sure what's the difference between cartoons and anime. I'm not sure what the difference is. Okay, another person here, banned. Pardon me, guys. Hey, coach, why does Chael Sonnen say that single legs don't work? That's from Zigzag. You know what? Single legs don't work in any, a single leg should be used to get to the other leg, to get to both legs. Okay, so you're going to take a strong athletic guy down. You're rarely going to do it. An experienced fighter or a wrestler, because they don't work in wrestling either, is what I'm trying to say. You need contact with that second leg. It's rare you're just going to run the pipe on a very experienced guy. It's just rare. I'm going to run the pipe, and from there I'm going to trip or double or high single. I'm going to turn it into something. So to take a man down, you need both his legs or his body. You have to lock that body up. You have to squeeze it. You got like a bear hug his body. You got to break his posture. You're not going to take an athletic guy down any other way. There are a few other ways. I mean, you can take a guy down with an underhook. You can take a guy down with a waist lock. But generally speaking, those are like B moves. If you want an A move, A plus move, you need to go from single to double. And by double, you can use your foot to trip that far leg. You can use your hand or your foot to trap that far leg, but you need that far leg. And if you're gonna do an upper body takedown, you generally need to break his posture, and that's the way you take a really good. If I have a body lock on you and I break your posture, you're gonna hit the mat. We're going down. However, if I can't break your posture, well, I rarely will take down somebody with as much experience as me. If the experience level is equal, you need that double leg, or you need for the most part. Those are the A plus moves. I think that's what he meant. Strangely, DC has massive success with single legs. Well, he does a high crotch. Okay, and I'll be honest with you. Okay, a lot of the guys he's taken down, and he does an amazing high crotch. Okay, you're right that he's an exception. It's because he's really short compared to the guys he's wrestling, and the guys he's wrestling, all due respect, okay, they're not. Some of them are not great wrestlers. Like Derek Lewis is not a great wrestler. He took down John Jones, but I don't think he did it with high crotch. I think he did it with a double leg. Now, he did take down Josh Barnett with a high crotch, if I remember correctly. And Josh Barnett is a good wrestler. So, yes, you're right. It does happen. There are some guys who make it work, okay? He also took down Dan Henderson with a high crotch, if I remember correctly. And Dan Henderson is a great wrestler, of course, but he's a lot smaller. Than Cormier. So there are some exceptions, but I don't want to say nobody ever takes people down with single leg. They do, there are some guys who make it work. But for the average Joe, the average wrestler, they're going to get to that. They need that second leg. Okay, so, and I think Cormier is a bit short for heavyweight, and so he's very low. So there are exceptions to body types. Some guys they're very, very short. So they make that single leg work real easy. Hey, Coach, what's your opinion on CBD and cannabis? That's from Ivan. Well, I don't know if you guys have heard, but Canada has made marijuana legal. Canada now has made marijuana legal. Now, let me tell you something, okay? I'm born and raised in Canada. My whole life, they told me, don't do drugs, don't do drugs. The state told me, don't do drugs. Drugs are bad, don't do drugs. They kept pounding it in my mind. Now, fast forward a few years later, a couple of 20 years later, they're selling me the drugs. They're trying to sell me the drugs. Now they're telling me, come here, we'll sell you drugs. Come and buy drugs. And who's selling me these drugs? The state is selling me these drugs. I thought drugs were bad. I thought drugs were horrible. I thought they're going to pollute my mind. I thought they were gateway drugs. I thought they were going to make me crazy. I thought they were going to ruin my life. And now, the government is trying to sell me drugs. And it's kind of funny, I think. I don't know. Look, at the end of the day, guys, I'm not attracted to these kind of things. Me personally, I'm too busy, training, wrestling. I don't feel like I need these kind of things, these substances. I don't feel like I would ever want to, become dependent on any of these things. So in Canada now, it's all the rage. It's everywhere. Weed. Everybody. Cannabis is legal. Cannabis. People are going nuts on cannabis. They're sold out. The lineups are long. I don't know what it is. I heard Alberta's going to get 100 more stores right away. I ask myself, why are people so enthusiastic about this? What need is it fulfilling? I mean, I don't know what it is. But for me, it doesn't have an appeal. I wish I was in Canada. Australia sucks. That's from Shati. Well, I don't know why you mean that. I don't know why you're saying that. Maybe, I guess, weed is illegal in Australia. Tabbouleh and weed. Thank you, Ray. Ray, appreciate it. Right back at you. Thoughts on Indian philosophy? That's from you what M8. Well, listen, you what? Unfortunately, I haven't really studied Indian philosophy all that much. I couldn't do it justice, but I do look forward to later in my years of study to delve in all sorts of philosophies from all over the world and all through different times. It's a topic I'm very passionate about, but unfortunately, I have not gotten to Indian philosophy just yet. I have come across it here and there in different books, but it's definitely something I will be looking to delve in much deeper in the near future. That's from Harish. Try it, coach, and then you will understand. Well, Harish, in the spirit of being open-minded, I'll admit to you that I don't understand till I try it. Coach, did you watch? Oh, it skipped again. I wish I knew how to stop that from happening. Coach, Universal Basic Income. That's from Steady Aim Cinema. Steady Aim. Well, Universal Basic Income. Okay, guys, we're winding down. It's been an hour and a half, and I owe you guys extra time because I have been away for extra time. So I'm trying to put a good episode here together, and hopefully Abe will find some nuggets in this one and chop it up. So a special thank you to Abe as usual. Thank you, Abe, our editor, our YouTube, our TriStar Gym editor. He's gonna help me bring you guys more episodes more frequently. Thank you very much, Abe. Guys, please give Abe a thank you in the comments section. I'm sure he will appreciate it. My thoughts on universal basic income. Well, here, let me get some more water. I'm gonna answer that. Just one second. Okay. Well, my dear friends, first let me tell you something. Okay, I live in a socialist country. Canada is a socialist country, and we don't call it universal basic income, but everybody gets. You don't live in the streets in Canada. Okay, when I go to the U.S., certain parts of the U.S., like I was in California not long ago, and I see so many homeless people. And I've been to Australia. I saw a bunch of homeless people living in the streets, and it's sad. It's very sad. And don't get me wrong, it pulls on my heartstrings like it would any other human being. However, in Canada, we don't have this really. In Canada, if you're homeless, it's probably because you have a mental disease. And I say that with all due respect, okay? Because everybody has the right to basic income in Canada. We're a socialist country, right? We collect taxes from people who make money. And if you're jobless or you're homeless, we will put you up. We have services for that. We have the government will rent you an apartment, etc. So some people who are not well of mind, they don't know how to access that, right? They don't go to the bureau. They don't apply for it. They're just not sound of mind to apply for it. Because in Canada, there's really no excuse. The government will put you up. The government will house you. The government will feed you in Canada. We have food banks, etc. Now, is this good or bad? Well, it's good, because some people are down on their luck. Maybe somebody has a disease and they can't work now, or maybe somebody, I don't know, is going through a crisis in their life, and they need support. It's a good thing. However, however, it does create dependency. It does create dependency. Certain people are going to abuse the system. Certain people are going to be like, hey, why should I go to work? Let me just get this paycheck from the government, tell the government I'm down on my luck, and give him a bunch of excuses. Abuse the system. And, just get my beer or my weed or just have pocket money, maybe work under the table and make a little extra cheddar here and keep taking that basic income from the government and just cheat the system. There are a lot of people who do this. And of course, we know that people do this because, people get caught doing it all the time. And these people who are abusing the system really hamper on our lifestyle here. Right? 'Cause taxes are very high in Quebec. Taxes are very high in Canada. And I think it's a whole host of problems that I want to get into. But at the end of the day, I'll tell you something about universal basic income. How we have it here in Canada, okay? We don't call it universal basic income. We call it bien-être social. I think personally, it creates a dependency. Because when people don't have a safety net to fall back on, they're going to dig deep. Like there's an extra 100 yards in you. And I think people are just too comfortable to fall back and just, not everybody. Some people are legitimately down on their luck. And I feel bad for them. My heart goes out for those people. Some people are legitimately down on their luck and they need assistance from the government for a short period. And then they're going to get back in the system. They're going to find a job. They're going to do whatever it takes to get back on their feet. And the government helped them out. And now they're back on their merry way. And I wish it worked like that. But most people, in my opinion, collect from the government and they don't need to. They're just lazy. They're just abusing the system. And this is, in my opinion, in the long run, will snowball. More and more people will be like, hey, why am I working? Excuse me. I could just collect off the system. And it just creates a dependence and a strain. And then the government needs more and more money. And where does he get it from? He gets it from the earners. And then the earners will be like, hey, why am I breaking my back to earn for all these people? And I know I'm oversimplifying it a little bit, but if you lived in Canada, I think you would understand. Like, for instance, when I want to go to the doctors, I have to go private because the public doctor is jam-packed. Like, if I broke my arm right now, if my arm was shattered, I'd have to wait 8 hours in an emergency room. I would probably wait about 8 to 10 hours. Why? Because some guy with a cold went to the emergency room. Why? Not really for his cold. It's just because he wants attention. Because it's free, people go in there for a paper cut. And you'll see a long line of people there for nothing. They're just there for time and attention. They just want to, it's a hobby. It's fun. I'm going to go see the doctor, and the doctor's going to give me a pill, or he's going to talk to me, and he's going to ask me a bunch of questions. And there's just a lot of people out in there. Now, because it's free, you're not getting the best doctor. Like, if it was like in the States, and I've been to the doctor in the States, it's amazing. I mean, the service is incredible. It's night and day. I've been to the hospitals in Thailand. I got better service than in Canada. When I was in Thailand, I spent 5 minutes waiting, saw a doctor, was out of there in 30 minutes. And I paid like $10 or $15. It was unbelievable. With my prescriptions and everything. In Canada, it would take me 8 to 10 hours to see a doctor. I went one time to the public clinic and it said full to capacity, no more patients. Like, they had a sign, they put up a sign, boom. Like, don't walk in here, we're full. And I was like, unbelievable. And I started, thankfully, there are private clinics popping up now here and there. And every time my kids are sick, even though I pay heavily into the system, I'm heavily taxed. Thankfully, I make good money. And I get heavily taxed. And when I get taxed, I pay into the system, but I don't use the system. I got to take my money and go to the private. Why? Because when something is free, it's cheapened, Like, if you're the best doctor in the world, I know this kind of sound weird, but you're going to go to the States. Like, if you're a top doctor, if you're a number one doctor, if you're an A+ doctor, you're not going to work in Canada. Why? Because here in Canada, doctors don't make that much money compared to the US. Like, if you're the best in the world, I'm talking about if you're a genius, I don't know, like you're the one of the top 10 best brain surgeons in the world, the US is going to take you up. They're going to eat you up. They're going to give you a better offer than the Canadian market. Why? Because that's what capitalism does. We compete for the best doctors. Whereas in Canada, it's going to be like, no. Socialist mentality is very different. You do your job and this is what you get paid. We don't care if you're the best. You're going to get paid like everybody else. It's just a different mentality. And you're going to treat these people, because these people are not paying customers, you're going to treat them and you're going to take this amount, and that's what we offer. Whereas the US is going to be like, hey, the people with the most money want the best doctor and they're willing to pay for it. However it comes through their insurance or whatnot. But the people with the most money will pay and they'll get the best doctor. And the best doctor, you'll find him in the United States, where somebody with incredible skill can capitalize on his own skill. And I think that's always going to be the case. If you're the best at something, I don't care what you are. We have Celine Dion, one of the greatest singers in history. Where does she sing? In the US. Why? Well, it's a bigger market, okay? It has nothing really to do with socialism, but it's a bigger market because the US, if you're the best at something, go to the US, man. The US allows you to make big bucks. Now, if you're in Canada and you're a megastar, the government's going to come and hit you hard with taxes. So when you make money, the government's going to hit you hard with taxes. Now, the other flip side of the coin is Canada is one of the best places in the world to live. And I don't know if it has to do with socialism or not. Okay, I really don't think it does. I'm not sure. I'm not an expert in this field, but I really think it's probably because our population is we're not even 100 million yet. We're like 35 million, so we're like a really big village. I would describe Canada as like a really huge village. We still have that village feel. People are very nice. I find when you go into cities that are super overcrowded, people are just like they've become less human for some reason. They become more like barbaric. They become more rude, more vicious. Where in Canada, you come in Canada, everybody's so nice, everybody's so friendly. I think it's because we're not tightly packed in. I think when people are invading your personal space, like you're living in a condo and there's like a million houses on top of your house, and you have to share this space with everybody. It's like you feel like people are in your private space, and you want people to back off. Whereas in Canada, things are far less dense. This is just my sharing my own personal experience because I go to New York quite a bit. And I feel after 2-3 days, I got to get out of there. I got to get out of that city. That city's just too much for me. Just too packed. Too much of a rush. Too much noise. Too much stimulus. Too much like, the sounds. The city is just too quick for me. When I come back home, it's like, wow, everything's so nice and slow and relaxed. And that's how I would describe Canada, a huge village, just a giant village. So that's my answer to you. Universal basic income, I don't know. I feel kind of funny about it. It's not full-blown communism. There's never been an actual communist country in the history of mankind. An actual 100% communist country. It has not existed. They're really just kind of like socialist countries. Marx said that socialism is a step towards communism. And communism, there is no state. People just share in a communal sense. There's no need for a state anymore. However, in socialism, there's a state, and then the resources are shared. That's where Canada falls to. Okay, resources are shared. In America, capitalism, resources are competed for. We compete for resources. In Canada, we compete for resources to a degree, but we also share resources, which I like the balance. But I think universal basic income, and I don't know enough about economy to tell you, but that sounds a little bit a step towards a higher level of socialism and communism. In the long run, it's not communism. No, communism is more than that, far more than that. But then I think it takes away people's drive to get up and solve problems, to get up and make progress, to get up and better themselves. I think it takes away a lot of that fire. Now, if you were to ask me what's my perfect system, and I'm telling you this, I'm admitting to you that I'm not an expert in this field. I would tell you that my perfect system is free healthcare for kids. If you're under 18, we take care of your health. Maybe your dad and your mom are, not functional people, and you got a toothache. Let the state. We're gonna pay for your tooth. You're sick. We're gonna pay for your parents weren't wise enough to get you insurance. Let the state pay. I'm all for that. However, if some guy, he's 25 years old and he just doesn't want to work because he's lazy, why should we have to pay for him? I think that when we're young, we're taught so much about sharing. When you're young, okay, you got this candy bar, share it with your friend, share it with your brother, share it with your sister, and share the resources. And I get it why we do that. It makes sense. You're making friends. However, when you become an adult, that's got to be done in a different sense. I don't think that we should ask kids to compete with one another and conquer the world and progress to the level of competition that we see in the market. However, I really, if I knew my taxes were going to helping young kids and helping feed kids, I'm okay with that. But why are they going to help some guy who just is lazy? That's the question. That's why I fear, that's why I don't like about socialism. I know a lot of my tax dollars are going to really horrible, it's a waste. They're just wasted, because I don't know if you guys know this, but governments are generally, not all, but generally not as efficient as they could be. And not because there's not competent people in there. It's just a system. When you get a big government, you want to pass this paper. You want to get this paper signed. It's just how many hands does it have to go through? It's just complicated stuff. It's just really incredibly complicated stuff, which I really find that is a bit problematic. Because at the end of the day, I find that people do best when they have to earn for themselves. They're going to be more creative. They're going to be more intelligent. They're going to be sharper because they have to depend on themselves. I'm really huge on this. I'm really big on this. When I want something, I'm going to try my best to make it happen. I'm going to work my way. I'm going to do my best to make it happen. And when obstacles comes, I'm going to get creative. I'm going to get smart. I'm going to get sharp. But if it's handed to me, all that's gone. All that's gone. I don't need my sharp claws. I don't need I don't need to think about it. It's been handed to me. I don't need to develop my abilities to get what I want. And there's no satisfaction like wanting something and getting around the obstacles to getting that goal. Man, if everything has been handed to you in your life, you're missing out. If everything has been handed, if you have some rich mom and dad that have put you on a silk pillow and they have fed you and brought the world to you, they brought it to your feet, you have had a boring life. There is nothing better than overcoming obstacles and growing as a human being and developing yourself and achieving your goals. That is an intrinsic value that no price can ever match. Going on your adventure and growing as a human being and overcoming your obstacles, slaying your dragons and getting to the other side. Oh, that's such an incredible feeling. And you'll never know it. You'll never know it if you are dependent on others to carry you. You'll never be truly a man. In my opinion, you're never truly a man. And again, I make exceptions for people who are literally, sick or, dysfunctional for whatever reason. Maybe you have a disease or you have a circumstance that doesn't allow you. I get it. There are exceptions. But I'm referring to what I was describing there is somebody who's sound of mind and body, but is just lazy. That's it. That's all I'm referring to. Everybody, there are exceptions to this. Man, being lazy in life, in my opinion, is a waste. All right, guys, that is almost a 2-hour episode. It's 1 hour and 46 minutes. I'm going to do one last question. Let's see. Coach, do you own a firearm at home? MM75. My friend, why would I need a firearm at home? Do you know what I would do to you? If you came into my home, my dear friend, you will wish I put an end to your misery with a firearm. You would be praying, hey, look, just shoot me. It's worse than what you're doing to me. But all jokes aside, I don't want to tell you if I have a firearm at home. But listen, it's much more fun for me to use these. I'd rather use these, to be honest with you. And if there's just one of you, that's probably what I would use. Just use my bare hands on you. And I don't feel like I should tell you about what I carry or not in my home. But listen, because that was kind of a non-answer, I'll answer one more. Sufyan, thank you. Check your super chat. Oh, here we go. We got Tanner Raven. Tanner, that's too much of a question for me to end on, my friend. That is way too heavy of a question. But Tanner, look, I really feel you need to direct that question to an expert. But that's too much of a question. I'm going to have to pass, my friend. My apologies. Let me see here. What else we got here? Chris, I got to put you on a timeout, man. You're crazy. What else we got here, gentlemen? All right, what can we end on here? All right, let's see, guys. What do we got here? Let's end this on a good note here. All right, these are zipping through here. Oh. All right, so what else we got here? Zigzag asked me the first time I met John Danaher. Well, that's a bit of a long story, but I'll give you a brief overview. Okay, now we'll end on this. Okay, the first time I met John Danaher taught me and George since the time we were blue belts, all the way to we were black belts. Now, the first time I met him, I met him. George came into the gym and he told me he had went to New York, and he got tapped by somebody 5 times in 5 minutes, and I couldn't believe it. Like at that time, me and George were like, you know, two of the best grapplers in Canada. And I was like, come on, 5 times in 5 minutes. He's like, yes, man. I'm telling you, he tapped me 5 times in 5 minutes. And George had already made, I believe he had made his pro debut in UFC. So, I mean, he was already really good. And I was like, I don't believe you. Like, I have to come down to New York and see this for myself, you know? And sure enough, I went to train with John. And actually, I met him in Vegas. And I asked him if I could do a private lesson with him because I heard he tapped George out 5 times in 5 minutes, and I just couldn't believe it. I couldn't wrap my mind around it, and we ended up rolling. And yes, surely enough, he tapped me. I don't know, remember if it was 5 times in 5 minutes, but he tapped me a lot, and I didn't know. I hadn't felt that level of jujitsu. Now remember, I was a blue belt, and I had rolled with black belts before, but I'd never been beaten like this. Like he was just doing things like leg locks and Darce strokes. We hadn't seen Darce strokes yet. There wasn't DVDs on Darce strokes. There was never a Darce stroke in UFC at that point. We hadn't seen these kind of things. These leg locks he was doing, these rolls that he was doing, and he was also a competent wrestler. John was a competent wrestler, where most jiu-jitsu guys we roll with were like couldn't wrestle. They couldn't take us down, so we could always just stand back up to our feet. John was a competent wrestler. He is a competent wrestler, and he just beat us down real bad. And ever since then, you know, we've been training together, and he's always, he's always kept developing the game since then. Like his jiu-jitsu 10 years, 15, 20 years ago was very different than it is today. And that's what I think I credit him with the most. He keeps evolving. His jiu-jitsu has evolved immensely over the years, tremendously. And now the leg lock game that he does today is so different than the leg lock game he taught us 15 years ago. So different that his students now come to teach us. They give us seminars because we're the older generation. Now I have students that go train with John on a regular basis, and they bring back techniques and stuff I've never seen before, and they have to teach it to me. My own students got to teach me stuff, and it's just the development of the curriculum. The curriculum has never, it's like working with Marcelo. Marcelo does this. That's his curriculum. It's, I know he's still evolving in certain ways, but these are the things he does. Like he's perfected his formula and he's teaching it to people. John's a different attitude. John is like, look, this is what I'm doing today. And tomorrow, if I discover something better, I'm switching. He was very flexible in that sense. And over the years, he developed different kind of chokes, different kind of maneuvers, different type of back takes. So that's the fun part of training with John. He's not showing you the same old thing. It's always something with a twist, a new way of going about it. And things we were doing 10 years ago that worked really well have been improved. Now they work even better. And they're different and whatnot. They're being replaced. His curriculum is unbelievable. It's a living, breathing, never-ending growth. And I think he instilled that in me and George, because me and George are always on that path. We haven't settled on a set formula. Our formula is always being readapted. We're always doing new things in the gym. We're always being creative, and we're always analyzing and developing our game. So it's always exciting, because sometimes it gets kind of boring doing the same. Like sometimes you're rolling and you did the same 10 submissions over and over. It just gets boring. But then you get this new toy, this new move. And it's like, wow, that's fun. That looks crazy. That looks amazing. And we get all excited again. And we have these new guillotine sequences now. We have these new back takes. We have these new back attacks. We have the triangle from the back. We didn't have that 10 years ago. Now, one of my favorite submissions now is a triangle from the back. We didn't do triangle from the... I'm not talking about the body lock triangle. I'm not talking about triangle around the waist. I'm talking about taking somebody's back and putting the upper body in a triangle. if you showed me that 15 years ago, I'd be like, that's going to be really hard to do on a good guy. Now we do it all the time. We score it all the time. It's one of our best moves. And it's fun, when we learn these things. We're like, wow, this is incredible. What a step forward in jiu-jitsu skill, technique. And it's fun. It keeps the game exciting. When you're learning the same old tired moves, it kills motivation. And motivation, guys, is one of the most important components to training. I don't care how disciplined you are. If you have no motivation to train, you're not. You're probably not going to train. So learning new techniques, when I feel bored about training, I want to learn something new. I'm like, hey, somebody show me something new to work on. And that always excites me again. It always makes me want to go out there and experiment and go wrestle live now. And I'm going to try to make this work. And it's always been intriguing to try to make something new work. And then when it works, it's like, wow, look, I've upped my level. And that's a huge component to training. Huge component to training. Do new stuff. Add a little twist to the way you're doing things. And hopefully you'll be training for life. Okay, guys, with that note, we've almost done 2 hours. This will be my first, I think, 2-hour podcast ever. Should I keep going 5 more minutes to lock in the 2 hours? What do you guys think? Should I do another question? It's getting really late here. You know what? We're at 1 hour and 55 minutes. Let's do another 5 minutes and back in a 2-hour episode. I think it'll make a lot of people happy. Yes. Go. Okay, let's do 5 more minutes. Let's go on. Yalla. Let's do it. All right. Thoughts on... Oh, let's see. Ahmad, check your past super chat. All right. Let me try to check on that. I might have missed a few super chats. My apologies. For us, where should I begin if I want to study philosophy? That's from Lulu. Listen, try to read Descartes' Meditation. Meditations on First Philosophy. I think it's a great starting point for people who want to learn philosophy. I think you should read the book, read commentary on the book, get a lecture from a professor discussing the book. I think it's a very, very important starting point for anybody who's interested in philosophy. Tim Royce, Coach, will you come to Australia? Well, Tim, I've been to Australia months and months ago. I gave a seminar there, had a great time, and it was a long trip, man. It was like 7 hours to Vancouver, then 16 hours from Vancouver to Australia. I spent only 2 days in Australia and then flew back. I spent more time or just as much time in the plane as I did in Australia. I had a good time in Australia, but do I want to make that trip again? Oh God, that was such a horrific trip that I think the next time I go to Australia, it would have to be me and my wife together, and I'd have to stop in Hawaii. I'd have to stop in Hawaii for a while, a few days, relax, mellow out, chill out, unwind, and then fly all the way to Australia. And then when I fly back, I gotta hang out in Hawaii again. I can't imagine doing that incredible trek from Vancouver to Australia, and I was in economy, guys. UFC flies us in economy. Maybe if I was first class, which I'm assuming is probably like $10,000, but it would have to be like either first class or stop in Hawaii. I mean, it's just too brutal of a trip. Coach, what do you think about Tai Chi in combat? That's from Anthony Panov. Well, I don't know. Do you mean as an effective martial art? I honestly don't think it'll be effective at all. From what I understand, and I know very little about Tai Chi, but it's a very slow movement, right? It's a very tiny, little gestures. I don't see how that would help you in a fight. I don't see how it would help you, and I'm just being totally honest here. I'm not trying to attack Tai Chi. I don't see how that would help you in the least bit. But I mean, I'm always open to see or sparring or moving around with a Tai Chi practitioner. You know, if any Tai Chi practitioners want to come to Tristar Gym and glove up and move around and see what's, you know, if Tai Chi can be effective, I'm all for it. You know, I'd be happy to help out. Thank you, Ahmad. Coach, what's the best way to use Timtam pre or post workout? I would use it post workout because pre workout you might temporarily kind of put the muscle to sleep. You know, you kind of relax the muscle really deeply, and that will weaken the muscle, right? So imagine you stretched your muscle and you massaged it, and you know, how do you feel after a massage? Well, you feel really relaxed. You're not as strong. You're in a parasympathetic state, and your muscles are in a relaxed state. And when you're training, you got to be in an explosive state. You got to be in you know, the opposite kind of gear, so to speak. So I think it would temporarily weaken you, temporarily. Now, in the long run, it'll strengthen you. Why? Because it helps you with your range of motion. And range of motion is part of the equation of power, according to Stephen Kogan. Okay, so it's really great for recovery, keeping the body healthy, preventing injury. You know, after practice, if I have a tight muscle, I address it with a Timtam. I neutralize it with a Timtam. I put it to bed. I work out that knot and keep my joints healthy. Good show. Just end it. That's a good point, my friend. We did the 2 hours. Let's do one last one, and I'll take your advice and end it. Maybe this has gone a little too long. Call it a night. LOL. Okay, last one, and let's do this. Okay, let's end it. Coach, how many sets and reps for strength and conditioning? Oh, not today. Your extra talk is always good. My pleasure, prime time. But you just told me to put it to bed. I think it was good advice. I was about to do that. Let's just end on a good question. Let's just end on a good question and put this one to bed. So, guys, fire away your questions, please. What advice would you give yourself as a white belt? That's a great question. Let's put it to bed on this one. I'm going to try to keep this one short. Excuse me. What advice would I give myself as a white belt? I would say be consistent with your training. Drill more. I think white belts need to drill more. Find a true expert. You know, I trained with some guys a few guys who were not true expert, and I wasted a lot of time drilling and doing what they taught me. And I think if I would have met John earlier, my career, I could have advanced it much more. So get good quality training, get good quality techniques to drill. And as a white belt, you should drill a lot. Not as much sparring, because you don't know what you're doing. You're squeezing heads. You're just squeezing, you're tugging. It's not wrong to wrestle as a white belt. Roll. Go out there and roll on the mats, but focus a lot on how to move. Imagine you're learning chess, okay? What's the first thing you're going to do? You're going to learn how all the pieces move. And it doesn't take very long. It's chess. Imagine the chessboard had 1,001 pieces. Well, it's going to take a long time to learn how 1,000 different one pieces work. Jiu-jitsu is kind of like that. There's 1,001 moves that you have to learn. Then you can go and kind of dance. So I would have spent, I did a lot of sparring early on, which I was just squeezing heads. I was just grabbing joints and trying to muscle them. Whereas if I drilled more, if I took that sparring time and just drilled more, I would have gone a lot better. And then I think there's a point where, look, you've drilled so much now, it's time to roll a lot. You go through a phase of rolling. So I would tell my student, if I was talking to myself as a white belt, I would say, look, keep drilling, do 80% drilling, 20% rolling for the next 2 years. Drill, and drill the best techniques. So find the best trainers with the best techniques and drill their techniques for 80% of your training hours. 80%. Roll only 20. And that's the advice I would give myself. But after 2 years, start rolling like crazy. Flip it. Make your drilling, make it like 40% drilling, 60% rolling after 2 years. Because after 2 years, I'll be a blue belt. For sure, I'd probably be a blue belt within the first year if I drilled. Probably even sooner. If I drill that much, I would know how the pieces move. And it was just so... I find white belts get so much more out of drilling than black belts. Black belts, we don't really drill that much anymore. We kind of drill a little bit, then we roll. Because I don't really need to drill it that much. I know how to move my body. You just got to tell me... you just got to show me this new clever combination or maneuver. I drill it once, twice, that's it. I know it. Like it's similar to other moves I've drilled for so many years. I feel black belts don't need to drill as much. We need to roll more and be fitter. We need to focus on rolling more and conditioning and not as much the technique, because the techniques are so easy to do for us now. We're so coordinated. Whereas white belts, you guys are just not coordinated yet. And that's normal. White belts, that's why you're white belts. You're not coordinated. You got to learn how to move your body in these jiu-jitsu ways. And once you learn to move your body in these jiu-jitsu ways, now you can dance. You can go on the dance floor. And lots of drilling early on. The first 2 years of your jiu-jitsu career, like you guys got to drill. And then you go roll and it falls apart. Don't worry about it. Keep drilling. It's not instinctual yet. Once the maneuver becomes instinctual, it'll come out on the mat. But drill, lots of reps. And plus, it's fun to drill when you're white belt because things are so fascinating. You're learning so much. It's crazy. Whereas a black belt, like you show me a move, you want me to drill it. Look, dude, I've drilled that for so many years. Like drilling it today won't make me any better at it. If you make me drill Toriando, like I don't drill Toriando ever. And I still hit Toriandos like this. I've been drilling them for so long. Toriando, you know how many Toriandos I've done? Do you know how many times I've hit a Toriando in my career? In my life? Countless. I don't need to drill unless you show me a new way to do Toriando. Then I'll just do it once or twice. And I feel like, okay, I can do this. Like I feel coordinated. And it probably won't take me that long. Sometimes I just see a move and that's it. I roll the next time I hit it. Why? Because it's so similar to other moves I've learned. It's just different. When you're a black belt, you don't need to drill as much. Now, I don't think that it's wrong to drill as a black belt. I think it's good. But if I'm up to it, if I feel good, if I go in the gym and I feel good, I'm rolling. If I don't feel good, I'm going to drill today. I'm going to do some kind of like flow drill. And because I don't feel good, I feel sore, my shoulders bothering me or whatnot. The second best thing for a black belt to do is to drill. That's like the plan B. But if I can roll every day, I'll roll every day. I feel like I get more out of it. But that's because I reached the black belt level. If you're a white belt, it's the opposite. Rolling, you're just kind of taxing your body. You're just going there and getting tired and you don't know what to do. You're just practicing being bad. You're just practicing like tough guy behavior. There's no point in practicing that. All right. So guys, that is my advice to white belts. Do lots of drilling, lots of drilling. Get a good jiu-jitsu book, a good jiu-jitsu instructional, and drill it till it becomes second nature. And then it will really help you shine on the mats. Okay, guys, as always, thank you very much for tuning in. Please like, share, and comment, and I'll see you all in the next episode. Thank you.